Welcome to another episode of Amoro's Toy Workshop. Today we're going to do another collection comparison wherein we compare an original made figure versus a China clone or a KO. So today we'll be comparing Ironman Mark 43. So to start with the comparison, let's look at the boxes. So here is the original Ironman Mark 43 made by Bandai. And as you can see, it has a complete markings with the Tamashii Nations and the Bandai logo. Plus, it has additional holographic stickers with a Marvel insignia on it. And at the back, there's also an additional sticker wherein there's a warning sticker, maybe choking hazard, not for children under 3 years, which is also attached by Bandai. On the bootleg, there's no such Bandai logos or Tamashii Nations logos, nor any other stickers, as you can see here. Also, one thing to note is that if you see here, this China clone says 2015 made in China. Okay, but on the original it says Bandai 2015 made in China. So that is one of the most obvious differences. Other than that, you can see in the box that the color of the bootleg box is slightly less saturated than the original one. Let's put them side by side. So as you can see, the box of the original one has a more saturated color than the KO. Plus, if it's not too obvious in the camera, but the Ironman Mark 45 has silver borders on it, while on the KO it's not as reflective as the original one. Plus, you can see it's very obvious that the original has a red backing cover and the KO has a plain carton background. Additionally, you can see that the print on the KO is less sharper than the original one. So these are the telltale signs that you are encountering a bootleg if the print is not as sharp as it should be. So this would be helpful in identifying the KOs of these two. So taking them out of the box, you can see that both of them has the same accessories and are quite similar to each other. However, upon close inspection, you can see that the KO has a brighter color than the original. And you can see that the original has some fading parts. So it's not unusual to see Ironman figures with fading paint. However, as you can see, the KO has a more consistent color. However, upon close inspection, there is a tinge of red on its gold parts compared to the original, which has a stark gold color. So one thing to note also is that the original came with instructions while the KO didn't. Comparing their accessories, they have the exact same accessories between the KO and the original. However, if you look closely, the original has more gradations to it. You can see there's a white and there's a more orange part that turns into a lighter gradient to yellow. With the KO, you can see that there's almost no gradations for the KO, and the white part is almost absent. So that's also one point to tell the KO apart from the original. Let's see the longer part. So this is the KO repulsor blast and the original repulsor blast. As you can see, the original has a more yellow color to it with more gradations as compared to the KO, which has a more reddish orange tinge to it. So that's the comparison between the accessories of the KO. Also, if you see, it's such a shame, but the copy that I got of Mark 43 has already fading paint. So instead of red, the original has a more pinkish tinge to it. The KO, on the other hand, also has a fading paint on the hands, but as you can see, it's a more reddish color compared to the pink color of the original one. So if you see a faded paint that is more red than pink, then that's also one telltale sign that you got a KO. So here are the figures out of their boxes. So as you can see, apparently there's not much difference at first glance when you look at the original and the KO. However, upon closer inspection, you can see that the details of the original are much crisper than the details of the KO. And in fact, as you can see, this panel on the chest of the Mark 43 is a separate panel from the rest of his chest, but it sits flush on the chest. So although you can see the outline, it isn't raised. But on the KO, you can see it's very obvious that this panel is separate from the rest of his chest. And in fact, it's raised a little bit. So that is one of the differences. And as you can see, the red of the KO is more consistent, sadly, versus the original. As you can see, the original has fading paint all over his legs, his arms, and the rest of his back, and even his neck. On the KO, on the other hand, has more consistent paint with regards to his parts. And I can even say that it has quite a good application. So you can see It's really consistent versus the red on the original. You might say at first glance that this is the KO, but I assure you this one is the original Ironman Mark 43 made by Bandai. Upon closer inspection, you'll see that the yellow of the original is more consistent. Oh, actually not really. As you can see, here's a faded gold color on the thighs of the original Mark 43, and it has some blemishes already, so it's very poor workmanship. I don't know what Bandai was thinking when they hired the quality control team of Mark 43, but it's really horrible. I'm not sure if it's the paint or it's the inconsistent application that caused this horrible paint job. However, in the KO, although the gold is consistent, there is a slight red tinge to it. So I'm not sure if you can see this in camera, but there's a slight red tinge to the gold parts of the KO Mark 43. So that's all for the appearances of the Mark 43 KO and original. Moving on to the articulation, the Mark 43 of Bandai has the standard HSF articulation that we get from the other figures in the line. So it has a double ball jointed neck, which allows the figure to look this far up and this far down. So it has a hinge shoulder armor. The arms can go all the way out this far, or you can get it even farther, but it will pop off the shoulder armor as you saw earlier. It has double jointed elbows, and the wrist guard is removable, and when swapping out hands, you need to remove the wrist guard and transfer it. So it also has a ball jointed hand, has a chest ball jointed chest, and a ball jointed waist, as you can see here. Waist is made of two parts. As you can see, there is a separate part of the waist. It's not too obvious, but it does a little movement on its own. So there's a top waist and the upper waist and the lower waist. So moving on to the legs, it has the signature S.H.Figuarts pull down hips for greater range of motion. It has thigh swivels, double jointed knees, swivel ankles, that has also a bit of ankle rockers, and toe articulation. So that's the articulation for the original Bandai made Mark 43. And for the KO, it has all the articulations of the original. However, you can see that this part is very obviously identifiable, that is separate from the both mid part. So you can see also has the same arm articulation. The knuckle guards can also be removed. It also has the same double jointed elbows. Oops. Sorry. So as you can see, it got detached from the upper arm, but you can easily return it to the arm. So that's one of the downsides of the KO. I think it doesn't want to go in, so just push it. Okay. So the other elbow seems to be a bit stuck, so only the upper elbow bends, but the lower elbow seems to be stuck. So also, as you can see, maybe it's already been obvious, but the KO is really floppy. I'm not sure if it's because of floppy joints, but the original isn't floppy at all. But I am comparing the original and the KO. They both have die-cast feet, and I feel that the die-cast feet used in the KO is really a lot heavier, which causes the legs to flop. But nevertheless, it can still stand on its own and can still do poses that the original can do. One thing, of course, to expect is that the legs aren't floppy at all. The things that make it floppy is the hips, or the hip joint, pull down hip joint. So it's a bit loose on that part, so makes it floppy. But because of the die-cast feet, it can still stand on its own perfectly well. Wow! Size-wise, unlike other SHF bootleg releases, the Mark 43 KO stands exactly at the same height as the Bandai Mark 43, both standing at exactly 6 inches in height. So here's one final look at the bootleg SHF Mark 43. In my opinion, it's not such a bad bootleg. Despite its flaws of having really floppy legs, it can stand fairly well. As you can see, we have him on the rotating base, and he can balance himself perfectly well. If you're a toy customizer, then the flaws of this bootleg can easily be remedied. However, if you're a toy collector with no experience in toy customizing, then this bootleg is not for you, as it will be a bit frustrating because of the loose parts of this bootleg. If you're looking for a placeholder and don't have a Mark 43 from Bandai yet in your collection, then this would be a good substitute. He will look good standing in your shelf. However, if you have the chance to get the Bandai Mark 43, then by all means get the original one, as the bootleg cannot compare to the original one at the end of the day. So, if you like this video, please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I hope that I have helped you in some way to decide whether to get bootlegs or not. This has been Amuro of Amuro's Toy Workshop saying, have a good weekend everyone. Thank you for watching my video.